How's it going, my true people? DrSlaking, the Slacking Doctor, back with another Draft League review video, and today we are reviewing Mandibuzz, Old World, the Mandibuzz. I've got to put the nickname in, let's add the nickname now, which I used in the EWT. Not my best season ever, but shout out to Ben who requested this in the video where I asked for you guys to request the Pokemon they wanted to see. Ben requested this, so we're doing Mandibuzz. If you guys don't know what this series is, basically I look back at a Pokemon that I've drafted before, the team composition I had it on, the sets that I ran, or some of the sets that I ran. I speak about whether I think the Pokemon is good or bad, whether I think you should draft it or not, and what I think you can do to get the most out of that Pokemon, and how well I achieved that. So that's the kind of idea of the series. If you like this series, do please consider subscribing. There's already 3 others, I think, in this series up on the channel, and there'll be more coming every Monday. I think it's a really interesting Draft League analysis series myself, if I may say so. I don't think there's many people doing this kind of content. So yeah, please consider subscribing and checking that out. There's a subscriber Discord server down in the description as well if you want to join and have a chat with me about anything there or any of the rest of the Truant people. It's a pretty good server. So I'm saying all of this and the music is too loud in my headphones, so let's just turn it down a little bit. Alright, anyway. That's all the kind of housekeeping stuff out of the way. Let's move on to actually talking about Mandibuzz. So I drafted Mandibuzz in the EWT, as I said, and I didn't have a good season. I didn't have a good season at all. But Mandibuzz was one of my best performing Pokemon. It did a lot in a lot of games. It was Pokemon I've used before and I'm very comfortable with. Yeah, I found that it's just very consistent performer. So let's have a look at the team composition I drafted it on. I'm going to have to look at this screen a little bit now because my team composition is over on the screen. So we had round 1 Terrakion, followed by round 2 Mandibuzz, Araquanid, Whimsicott, Copperajah, Toxtricity, Claydol, Qwilfish, Charizard, and Rotom. Now Qwilfish and Charizard got dropped for Cloyster and Rapidash, but this was the team composition it was drafted on, at least, even if there were trades done after week 2, I think. Why did I pick up Mandibuzz round 2? Seems pretty early. I was quite down low near the back wheel, and I didn't believe that Mandibuzz would make it back to me round 3. Remember, this is a Wi-Fi metagame pre-DLC, before Isle of Armor. So there wasn't a huge draft pool to choose from, and Mandibuzz tended to go sort of round 2 or 3 in most leagues that I was seeing, and I didn't think it would make it to me late round 3, and I really wanted it with Terrakion. Now, you might think, why? Well, it covers Terrakion's ground weakness. It kind of covers Terrakion's fighting weakness because most fighting types don't really beat Mandibuzz. Like, it's just so fat, they can't really break it. It covers Terrakion's grass weakness with its flying typing, and it covers its psychic weakness. So sort of 3 of its major weaknesses are covered, and 1 of its other weaknesses in fighting is sort of covered. So, and it does beat fighting types offensively with Brave Bird. So I felt like in terms of that synergy, it was really, really good. Knockoff, I think, is the best move in this generation. I find it hard to argue anything else. So it was a great knockoff user as well, which is pretty nice for Terrakion because if you can knock off certain resist or lure berries, like a Chopal berry that's meant to bait a Terrakion, or a Charty berry, then that can be another really useful thing for Terrakion. Toxic spam to wear down teams for Terrakion to clean can be really useful too. So I felt like those 2 together just gave me, and of course, slow U-turn to get Terrakion in for free against certain things, things that might want to switch in on Mandibuzz. Maybe like bulky steals that might want to come in, predicting, like if you're in a fighting type, predicting a Brave Bird, you can U-turn out, things like that. Or, you know, various different things like that. Hazard setters that might want to come in to try and get rocks back up after you've defogged, like rocks and steel types. You can U-turn on those after you've defogged to get Terrakion in. So I just felt like it synergized pretty well with Terrakion. Now, the rest of the team was really built around Terrakion. Nothing else here was really super designed to support Mandibuzz. My ground type, which would cover Mandibuzz's electric weakness, was Claydol, which was awful. My grass type in Whimsicott does do it to some extent, but it doesn't have reliable recovery, so it isn't necessarily the best in that sense. The fairy weakness was covered by Copperajah and Toxtricity, neither of which are incredibly bulky and neither of which have reliable recovery. Qwilfish was going to cover it but got traded away. Charizard would have helped, but I swapped that for Rapidash, which is even more offensive. So you can see here that actually, like, the fairy and electric weaknesses of Mandibuzz, to some extent the rock weakness was covered by the combination of Terrakion and Copperajah offensively. But again, a bulky ground, if you're picking something like Mandibuzz and you want to build like a good defensive core, you do want to get something like Hippowdon, in my opinion, like a good fat ground that can cover your electric and your rock weakness, whilst you also cover their water weakness, grass weakness, sorry. So, yeah, to me, I didn't really draft around Mandibuzz well. I drafted around Terrakion, but I didn't really think about Mandibuzz in this team. And what happened is Mandibuzz became hugely pressured on this team composition. When you look at it, Mandibuzz is my main defensive switch into everything. It's the only mon apart from Charizard which got dropped with reliable recovery. It's the most bulky mon on my team by some distance. It really just got pressured to do everything. The only thing I'd say is ground types I had pretty well covered with all my levitators and stuff. So that was the one thing that Mandibuzz wasn't forced to do, to check ground types. But other than that, yeah, this thing was so pressured by every offensive mon to be a check to everything. That I think I needed other defensive pieces here to help Mandibuzz out, and especially to cover Mandibuzz's weaknesses. So, poor draft for Mandibuzz. That was really on me. Alright, let's have a look at the actual sets that we brought. So, week 1 against Skyrender. Because I've made myself bigger this video, I've made their teams a little bit smaller, so hopefully that's still quite visible for you guys. I'm just thinking, is it going to be covered? I don't think it's being covered, right? I think you guys can see that. Anyway, sorry, in video editing. I'm trying to experiment with this format a little bit. Someone complained that my video was too small, even with the green screen, so I've tried to make myself bigger. Maybe I'm too big now. I don't know. Anyway, your feedback is always appreciated. We have a Big Peck set here, week 1 versus Skyrend. If you look at his team, he's got no kind of sand or anything like that. Remember, this is no Dynamax, so he can't max Rockfall or anything like that. And he's got no kind of Spore or Powder moves, his grass type being Virizion. Although I think actually this team, he's got some trades. He had Cobalion at the time. So regardless, that hasn't changed. So I really had no need for Overcoat. Weak Armor isn't going to be good in this kind of a matchup where I'm going to need my defense, and I really don't want to be lowering my defense with Weak Armor. So you just go for Big Pecks, and there's nothing on this team that really lowers defense anyway, but in case he brought some weird like Screech set or something, I've ran Screech on Sandaconda before, for example, hey, he can't Screech me, so that's that really. Now if we look at the EV spread, this was specifically designed for Hydreigon and Gengar, and again, this is really what I'm saying here. In this matchup, Mandibuzz was so pressured. Like, Mandibuzz really struggled because it needed to check both Gengar and Hydreigon and 1v1 both of them. And what happened is I led off with something offensive. I think it was like my Toxtricity or something. He led off with his Gengar, and I was like, it could be Sash. So I went straight into my Mandibuzz as he nasty plotted up, and was then able to essentially put my Mandibuzz at about 10%. And I choked playing around his Gengar as well, because I thought, well, there was a load of things that happened in the game. You'd have to watch it. But either way, it was really bad. It was really pressured. In fact, I might even be able to show you the game, because I think we did it on Showdown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quick cut, and I'm going to show you the game. So here we are, guys, after a lot of searching. I discovered I basically couldn't find the video. So we're here with this instead, or I couldn't find the replay. I think I need the link to access the replay. I don't have the link anymore. So I'm having to use my actual video footage. Look at my beard there, by the way. What was going on? Jesus. Fresh trim, but poor beard. Anyway, so yeah, this is the only place I could really find it. So I'm just going to have to use this. God, is it on like minus speed or something? It looks like it's going so slow. What's speed are you on? Let's go a little bit faster. Okay, so I led off with Toxtricity. He led off with Gengar. So this is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I thought. So I was like, maybe he's Sash, whatever. So I go and try and pivot into my Mandibuzz here. If I ever shut up. Okay, come on. We can do this. I believe in us. Come on, past me. There we go. So I go Mandibuzz. I take the Shadow Ball, right? I didn't even take the Nasty Plot. I got that wrong. He then Nasty Plots the next turn on my knockoff, knowing that he is Focus Sash. And here, in the actual game, I think knockoff got disabled by Cursed Body. So I think I had to go for like a U-turn to try and KO him. I think that's what happened. But it looks like a massive choke because you can't see here that in the Wi-Fi game, knockoff got disabled, got Cursed Bodied. I think that's what happened. But anyway, he's going to be able to eventually, when I shut up, fire off a big Dazzling Gleam and U-turn out here. So now, he has Scarf Hydreigon, and I have a 19% Mandibuzz, and his Gengar isn't dead yet. So this is exactly my point. Like, what else was I supposed to deal with that Gengar with? And what else am I supposed to deal with that Hydreigon with? Nothing. There's nothing we can do. We're just screwed at this point. We're just absolutely screwed. And if we go back to like my team preview, there's nothing else I can really do it with. I mean, I can try and take it on with Whimsicott, the Hydreigon, but if he's not Scarf, for example, and he's like Nasty Plot on that with Flash Cannon or Fire Blast, I'm screwed. So it was really, really tough. Made it really, really tough. Put me under so much pressure so early. So I just really wanted to illustrate that. The example of why you want to support Mandibuzz on your team composition so that you get something out of it. Anyway, back to the specific set now. After all that took me ages. Back to the specific set. Brave Bird knockoff. I should have gone for Brave Bird. That's what it was. So I did choke. I knew that was somehow I choked. I should have just gone to Brave Bird, taken my KO. Instead, I was like, U-turn probably kills. I click U-turn. Stupid play. Stupid play. I should just Brave Bird, taking my KO on the Gengar. Okay. That meant that I lost my Mandibuzz, but it also meant I was losing it anyway, and he lost his Gengar. So, Mandibuzz probably lived the recoil, and actually I could have sacked it later to Hydreigon if I needed to, or as I did, sack it to Primarina. So U-turn didn't really get me anything. So horrible plays by me, but beyond my horrible plays, the point still stands that against his team, you can see how important Mandibuzz became. And we had the U-turn for momentum, Bruce, pretty standard. This is another thing you'll find with Mandibuzz. I'm running Heavy Duty Boots on this set. Heavy Duty Boots is great in this generation, but there will be some matchups where you'll want leftovers, and I think I have one of those in this build right here. But also, what you'll find is that you want more than 4 moves. You would like Whirlwind to stop setup against you. You would like Defog to get rid of hazards. You would like Taunt sometimes to stop certain things recovering up on you. There are so many good moves that Mandibuzz get. When I first drafted Mandibuzz, Checkmate Ben said to me, this thing has severe 4 move slot syndrome. And I was like, why? You just run Knockoff, Defog, Roost, U-turn. Done. But you find that's not the case. You find that you want Brave Bird on some sets. In this case, so I could hit things like the Hydreigon, as well as U-turn now on them. I think, so I could also get some damage off on a potential Cobalion coming in and not always have to knock off and give it a justified boost. So there are lots of times where you'll want other moves, Whirlwind to something setting up on you because you are relatively passive. Although it's noted that with knockoff in this generation, you're never going to be too passive because you're always getting rid of something's item. And with Brave Bird, it is a strong 120 base power move, so it does do damage. But yeah, you'll find that a lot. EV spread on this one, I spoke about this in the Caparaja video. Because its HP stat is significantly larger than its defense, not so much, or the Spadef, sorry, not so much with its defense. You're better investing in the Spadef than the HP. If you're trying to wall special attackers, you'll get more out of it that way. In this case, I obviously had this exact EV spread to take on something with the Gengar, maybe exactly what we saw, a +2, maybe a +2 Life Orb Dazzling Gleam I'd have taken with this spread, because I left with about 20%, didn't I, from the Shadow Ball into Dazzling Gleam from non-Life Orb, so maybe that's what this spread was guaranteed to take, a +2 Dazzling Gleam from Life Orb, and then the rest slapped into defense to probably help out with things like, I don't know, maybe taking 1 hit from non-banded Mamoswine or something like that, I don't know. But yeah, pretty standard set here, and you got to see an idea of how this team composition failed Mandibuzz. Next, we're going to look at a matchup where team composition really didn't matter, and this shows you how good Mandibuzz can be, and this is versus Sparrows. So, versus Sparrows, he was in a really difficult spot because he essentially needed to Toxic my Mandibuzz. The team that he brought, I don't think he brought Manectric. Manectric's not good in this generation anyway. So when you look at his team composition, he has no Rock type barring Tyranitar, and he has an Electric type that's pretty poor and that didn't come to the game. His Fairy type, I think, also didn't come to the game, so he really didn't have good ways to break Mandibuzz outside of Tyranitar. So when you look at this EV spread, I'm actually outrunning, I think, Adamant Tyranitar with max speed. And I have enough defense investment where Jolly Tyranitar with max speed doesn't 2-hit KO me unless he's banned, I think. So basically, with this spread, I can either take a Stone Edge from Tyranitar, or I think he doesn't OHKO me. I think that's it. I think Adamant T-Tar can't outspeed me, and Jolly T-Tar can't OHKO me with a Stone Edge. So what I can do is I can basically just keep roosting up on him and basically roost stall him into where he misses his Stone Edge, or into where he runs out of PP on Stone Edge. Now, of course, he could crit me, but I'm EV'd pretty well to kind of handle that, and we'll see. If you go back and watch the game, you'll actually see exactly what happened. But I am actually running Whirlwind on this set to stop Sword Stance Excadrill, because Sword Stance Excadrill is another thing I want to check, but I can't really beat it down very quickly with Toxic plus Knockoff. So I have to have Whirlwind on this set, because otherwise this thing doesn't get body press or anything like that. Excadrill becomes a real threat. And again, we are talking about how this thing got pressured in the matchup. Sword Stance Rock Slide Excadrill was his best way of breaking Mandibuzz if he brought that. What actually happened in the matchup is that I did outspeed his Tyranitar. He didn't expect such a fast Mandibuzz, and it was Assault Vest Tyranitar, so I completely walled him. I was able to just roost in front of his Rock Slides or Stone Edges. When you roost, you lose your Flying typing, so then I became a pure Dark type, and he no longer was doing super effective damage to me. They were just bouncing off me. I don't believe he had superpower on his set, but I think I scouted for it anyway in the game and played carefully around the superpower potential on the Tyranitar. And I also played very, very carefully around potential Toxic. So things like Roserade that would have access to Toxic. This league was post-home, so although it wasn't post-DLC, it was post-home, so he could have Toxic on things like Drill and Hitmontop. So I played very carefully around those things that I thought might have Toxic, because at team preview I literally said in the recording, I'm pretty sure, Mandibuzz 6-0s this team, and it did. It just didn't get off the field. In the end, he lost the timer, but I think even without the timer, he pretty much was never going to beat a well-played Mandibuzz. So I played my Mandibuzz so carefully in this game, and in my opinion, this is, if you go back and watch that video versus Sparrow's and New England Evolutions, this is one of the best examples of how you can use a Mandibuzz well, and when it doesn't even need team support to do stuff because someone hasn't prepped for it explicitly, and so they're just going to lose to it. They assume their Tyranitar will outspeed it, and it doesn't, and then bang, that's GG, game over, because they can't break Mandibuzz. It's able to just roost, Toxic, stall everything, and for those of you that think like, I hate Toxic stall, this is a competitive format. I'm trying to win every game. If I need to play Toxic plus Roost Recover, I will do that, and unashamedly will do that, because at the end of the day, you want to win games, and I think it's a perfectly legitimate strategy. I think the leagues that ban it are usually newer players, and that's fine, they're learning the game, but I think most competitive players respect that sometimes you're going to click Toxic, and you're going to click Roost/Recover, and you're going to stall out your opponent. That's just how it goes. It's part of the game we play, and it's a perfectly valuable and viable part of the game we play, so that's my opinion on kind of Toxic stall, which again, I don't even think is real stall, but there we go. My music stopped in my headphones, so let's get some music back on. What do we want? Let's go with, yeah, we'll go with that. Okay. I don't know if I cut that or not. Maybe I didn't, maybe I did. I don't know if there's any information on there I'd need to cut. But anyway, let's talk about the final team that I built for with this, as we look at Frosted's team. Oh, I thought I had leftovers on the set. When did I bring leftovers in? I swear I brought leftovers this week. Or was it on the Sparrow set I brought leftovers? No, it wasn't. I did bring leftovers on at one point. I thought it was against Frosted. This team might be outdated. I might have had leftovers on it. Because sometimes, like, if you're confident you can keep rocks off, which I was, I think, this week with Defog, then you can afford to bring leftovers. And leftovers makes a huge difference. A bit like Clefable and OU. Like, having reliable recovery makes a really big difference to how bulky your Mandibuzz is. I mean, you're already fat, but you get even bulkier with it. And I was trying to take on a Dragapult this week. And this is a phenomenal example of a time where I didn't support Mandibuzz well again, because I wasn't able to check everything I needed to on this team with it. Obstagoon punished it if it was able to, like, I think it gets bulk up into Reckless Double Edge. Would have been bad. Rotom Heat was able to come in on me, and potentially all I could really do was knock off his boots, although that never actually happened, unfortunately. That would have been nice if I could have got that. I think Clefairy was able to come in on me. It was Magic Guard, so unless, again, lost its Violite, which you didn't really care about. But crucially, the thing that I wanted to check with this set, the Dragapult's too damn good, man. Too damn good. On reflection, looking back at the early metagame, this thing might have even been broken pre-DLC. Like, I'm not sure, looking back, it was healthy for the Draft League metagame. I don't know. I believe it was comfortably the best Pokemon allowed in Wi-Fi Draft Leagues pre-home. I think people hadn't figured that out yet. That's the only reason it stayed balanced. I've played, like, Stromful with this thing. Monster. I think good players with this Pokemon would have absolutely rinsed it pre-DLC. But anyway, that's by the by. You can see here it was really pressuring the matchup between Obstagoon and Dragapult. I had to try and run some physical defense for Obstagoon, but I also needed to check special Dragapult sets. I was very scared of Banded Dragon Darts Dragapult. That thing just nuked me. One thing I would say, Frosted in the game actually brought Scarf Dragapult, which it's tough. It's a set that won her the game, but I still am not 100% convinced it was the best set in the matchup. So I played the game thinking, well, it won't be Scarf Dragapult because that never breaks Mandibuzz. But she was obviously very confident she had other ways to break Mandibuzz, and she did because she won the game. So it was one of those weird things where I was like, this set doesn't seem optimal, it won't be that. And then it was, and I couldn't argue with it because I lost my Mandibuzz. So yeah, good team composition at the end of the day. Will beat you even when you think that set isn't the optimal set here. if the team's good enough, it'll pull it off. So yeah, big credit to her. But again, we can see here the kind of 4 move slot syndrome. I don't have momentum on this set, and that would be something I would really love, because against something like Scarf Dragapult, there will be times where you come in on a Shadow Ball and you can just U-turn out, and I wasn't able to bring it in this game. So that 4 move slot syndrome rearing its ugly head again. But again, on this game, it didn't do too much at all. I really struggled to get anything out of it this game because it didn't have a defensive backbone paired with it. So this thing ended up going down quite early, I think. And in the end, I was relying on my offense with Cloyster to try and win the game. But yeah, it was tough. It was really, really tough. I think Copperajah was the other defensive piece in this game. Copperajah does not like being a defensive piece. I had Overcoat for the hail, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's tough. I think I sacked it to a damage roll on Ninetales, actually. Something like that. Anyway, so my verdict on Mandibuzz. What is my final analysis on Mandibuzz? I think Mandibuzz is a phenomenal Pokemon. I think, as we saw in the Sparrows build, it can just 6-0 teams if you build it correctly. I think running speed and stuff in Mandibuzz can be really valuable in some games. Don't ever overlook that. But I think you really want to build around Mandibuzz in a way that takes pressure off of Mandibuzz, that allows it to get those matchups where it just 6-0 stuff. The first team I drafted on in Gen 7 had things like Jellicent, Mega Altaria, and a few other like bulky things that could tank hits with reliable recovery, Miltank, so that Mandibuzz wasn't super pressured. Mandibuzz was freed up to just beat Mandibuzz and just completely wall 1 or 2 Pokemon in every matchup, not try and wall 4 or 5. But yeah, I think in this generation knockoff plus Toxic and stuff on this thing, phenomenal. I think it's a fantastic Pokemon. I regret taking it round 2 on the team composition I drafted, but I think if I drafted better around it, I still could have had a fire team. So yeah, that's my verdict on Mandibuzz is do draft it, but draft it on like a bulky balance. Don't draft it on a kind of weird Teraki on offense. It won't work. It won't do what you want it to do, and it'll be too pressured. Anyway, that is my kind of analysis of Mandibuzz. A little bit less to say about this one because it's a mon that I didn't get super creative with, but I still like it. I still think it's a good Pokemon. I still hope this advice kind of helps you to think about your team compositions in the future and how you build your Mandibuzzes. Regardless, thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.